Hey family, welcome for Father Time by the Fire. But please, please, please don't be selfish. Don't watch this alone. Invite someone, share the link, invite your friends, invite your family, friends, invite your enemies, invite your neighbors to watch with you. And guess what? This week we have a surprise host. Our mom is coming in for the show. Please, please invite someone to watch with you. Don't be selfish. Share this, because from here we get guidance, we get knowledge, we get how to go through life. I have a question where I need guidance as a daughter, like of my age. You know, when you're a kid, it's very easy to open up with your mom. You tell her everything, but when you start growing up, you start like thinking it's privacy, and sometimes it's not privacy. It's just shying away and keeping away. Guide me on how to create a relationship with your mom, so that, because when you have that relationship, when you talk it all out together, there is a way you run out of some things, how you keep away from some things, how do you build up that relationship?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think building relationship with our parents and our kids is always an interesting process, I think, because you have, when you're talking families, you have so many different dynamics, you know? Not everyone is good at talking. Not everyone is good at talking about some things, but maybe they're good at talking about other things. You know, not everybody is good at sharing or being open.
Yeah.
And those are things we as parents, you know, part of our role, part of our job is to try and teach our kids those things. But if we're not good at it, we may not teach it well, you know? So, or maybe you have one parent that's very easy to talk to and gives you that open door, and it's very easy, and then you have another one that's very difficult to talk to, or you know, challenging, or you can talk about some things but not others. But then as parents, we have kids who some are very easy to talk to and some are not easy to talk to, you know? So that's an interesting dynamic, because everybody's situation is different. Yeah. Every family is different. And so I think one part of it is, as you know the Lord, when you're a believer, He knows the two of you perfectly. He knows your mom, He knows your dad, He knows you, and He knows you perfectly. He knows where you're weak, where you're strong, what you're gifted in, you know, why things are easy or hard for you to talk about, and so He can help guide you. You know, like say for example, if you as a young lady, you have something you really want to talk about, but maybe it's hard to talk about. So like say relationships are always difficult topics in any home, but especially in our African homes. Talking with our parents about relationships can be a very taboo subject, very difficult. But let's say you really want wise, you know, advice, you really want parental wisdom from them, you know, but you don't know how to open that door, and maybe it will come out funny. You can always ask the Holy Spirit, who's your friend, who's your helper. You know, Holy Spirit, I really want to talk to my mom about this, and so, you know, help me, give me an open door, you know, maybe help create a situation or a circumstance, you know, and help me recognize it, so that when that open door is there, then I can jump in it, you know, and let Him talk to me and guide me that way. Yeah. So I think Holy Spirit can really advise us, especially when it comes to any kind of relationship, you know, if we include Him. And then there's just the being brave. You know, it can be hard to be courageous, but what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone says no. Someone says, I don't want to talk to you. They get mad at you because of the question you asked, you know, but you can be humble to say, no, I don't want to fight. I really want to know how you feel about it. I don't want you to be scared, you know, like thinking I'm doing bad things. In fact, I'm trying to talk to you so I avoid bad things, you know, so some of it's the way we communicate what we want to say, you know, and you can practice with someone, you know, say for example, if you have someone like me, someone like an aunt, a good friend, and you can come up with ideas, you know, so where like say for example, you just explore what are the possible reactions my mom might have, and then how might I respond back, and you kind of, it's called like role playing, where you go back and forth, because then that makes it easier to respond if you get a response that maybe is funny or hurts or surprises you, then you at least have explored some ideas.
You're good to go.
Frank is smoking.
So me, I have a question.
Yeah.
Actually, this question is from someone. I read this text online. Someone knew it that today we are going to have our special time with the mother of the house, and then she told me to ask you this question because she has observed you. Actually, most of us, we've observed you balancing both things, that's family and ministry, and all of them doing them perfectly fine. So how do you balance ministry and family? How do you get to give each of them time? This is time for my husband, time for my children, time for my relatives, and then this is time for God and ministry and everything that is needed. And you always leave no stones unturned. So how do you do that?
You think more highly of me than you ought, but thank you. I wouldn't say that I do those things perfectly. Like as you said, I balance those things very perfectly. I wouldn't describe myself that way, but thank you for describing me that way. I would say that I try to balance. There again, like God knows our weaknesses. I try to balance them. I grew up in a ministry house where my parents were in ministry. I think my parents did a good job of balancing that, so I think I had a good example of prioritizing. I would say one thing that my mom always did is she prioritized serving God, that like God's always priority. So if she ever felt like God told me to do this, then she would trust God would be the bridge or the mediator between her and the kids, so that, if it hurt our feelings, because like one time I think she was gone on my 16th birthday out of the country for a mission trip. And for some kids, that would really hurt them, especially in the States. Here, some of us don't even know our birthdays here in Uganda. but in the States, birthdays can be a very big deal, especially your 16th or some of those other ones. And so, and I don't recall ever being hurt or offended or that sort of thing. In fact, I had a nice time with my dad and my brother. But I knew that she cared because she had a good way of balancing it. So I had a good example. And even my dad, because my dad had a secular career and then also worked in the church and was a minister in the church. So they both kind of had that thing. And in fact, I remember one time Bishop Musisi came to visit us in the States from Prayer Palace. And I remember he saw my mom putting food in the slow cooker, getting a meal ready early in the morning as she was getting ready to go off to the office at church. And then she went off to the office at church, and then by the evening that meal was ready to eat. And so she had everything all together and organized. Then he'd see her vacuuming and cleaning, and my dad also like helps with stuff around the house too, so that helped. But I had a really good example in them. And then I also saw, and I grew up with other ministers' kids who didn't have good examples of that, where their families were so immersed in ministry or so immersed in business and neglected their kids in different ways. And so I had a good comparison. And so I tried, not always doing it perfectly, but trying. I prioritized things like bedtime stories with my kids. So
Bedtime.
Yeah, so like some church people would be like, I can never reach you when I call. And I'd be like, what time are you calling? And it'd be like bedtime. So that's my kid's time. So I have certain times where that just belongs to my kid, especially when they were younger. Now they're a bit older and more independent. They don't always want time with me like they used to. They love me, I know, but when you get older, your friends and other people start pulling on your time also. But when they're kids, you spend time doing bedtime stories, saying nighttime prayers, reading together. We used to read together all the time. And even just doing family things together, you know, playing a game, watching a movie or a show together, going somewhere together, and including them in ministry things. You know, there's organizational things that come with it too, where if you're just like never keeping track of what you have to do, then you'll be totally disorganized. So, I mean, I have a calendar where I keep track of what I have to do, you know, every day and different times and all that, and that helps. It helps a lot. Yeah. So it's good. I don't know. How do I do? What do you think? Do I balance it well?
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I felt like Daddy has like neglected us or anything. I mean, I've never really thought like that. So.
Well, then I either did it perfectly or he's very forgiving. One of the maybe both.
There's nothing to forgive. I've never been upset about anything. So I don't know. I mean, of course, there's times where people get busy and stuff, but then there's always that time where you make time for family and stuff.
Right.
But like our whole family, especially like on like your side of the family, grandma and grandpa, it's very serious about like family time and being together with family and stuff. So
yeah, my parents even there were times where there'd be like a game or something when we were in sports, and it might happen on a Sunday, and they'd have the assistant pastor take the service and come and watch our game.
Wow.
You know, just because they didn't want us to get that idea that was so much more important than we are.
Family.
Yeah, God can still be important even if you miss an event, you know, and that was their thinking, is I can still keep God the priority, but I don't have to be at every single event, you know. So, yeah, my family is good at that.
Yeah. But I was gonna ask you, like, kind of along the lines of what Sophie was asking. How much do you think that a kid should share with their parents, or how much do you think that parents should share with their kids, on both sides?
That's a good question coming from you.
Why?
Because I definitely think you should share more than many kids like to share. I'm one of those parents who I don't want to be overly involved, where like you should have your private life and your space and that sort of thing, but I'm not distant or absent in that sense of I don't want to know about anything. So like I think it's good to know who your kids' friends are. You know, I know some parents here who have no idea who their kids hang out with.
A lot.
Yeah, they don't know the kids' names or where they live. When I was growing up, my dad would be like, who you going with, where you going? And that was until I left their house.
Why?
That wasn't like, who you going with, where you going, what are you guys going to do? And that was before cell phones. I'm old enough to know what life before mobile phones was like.
Wow.
Yet we are living in America.
Yeah, I was living in the. I remember the first time that we had a phone in the car. It was the kind that like it stood on a stand, and it was a big, like, huge, heavy phone. It was installed in the car. Yeah, so you'd have to be and it would be like on the cord, you know, and you'd hold on to it and talk while you're in the car, you know. That was the first time. Yeah, and before that we had like pagers, beepers, or it was like this little thing that you'd wear like on your waistband of your pants or in your pocket or maybe on your purse. And then it would beep, make a noise. Then you'd look at it, and someone's phone number would be there. So it'd be like, you can call me, and the phone number would be there. And you can make it like, this is urgent. There's a way you can, show it's urgent. It's just a call me back, whatever. Those were very popular for a while.
So when you reach
But I'm even older than that, where I remember having phones attached to the walls.
Wow.
And then getting answering machines where... Like, in fact, I miss those days so much. Where you could just go home, you'd see, like, I have 4 messages, and you'd be like, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. And you sleep, and then you check your messages in the morning or whenever. No, I don't like these days where your phone follows you everywhere. You know, it's like being haunted by technology.
So instead of it being attached to the wall, it's attached to you.
Yeah. Yes. So anyways, but I think it's good for kids and parents to have an open relationship where you can share and feel comfortable to share stuff, you know, like I want to know what my kid's doing, where they're going, but I don't have to know every detail. You know, I do think it's good, especially if you know you have parents who give wise advice or, you know stuff too. Sometimes there's things you face with your friends, you know, when you're a teenager, especially, or an older, you know, elementary school kid or whatever, you encounter friends who may be suicidal, or friends who have addiction problems, or friends who have problems at home or experience abuse, or maybe a friend who has been raped or made a mistake and got pregnant or got a girl pregnant or something, and they may not have parents they can go to, you know. But if you do, then I think it's wise to go and say, you know, what would you do if you were in this situation, or my friend had this thing happen or whatever. And you know, of course, if you have a parent that'll go tell your friend everything you said, then maybe not. Do you know what I mean? But if you've built up a confidence with each other where I can share that with you, you'll advise, guide me, and then trust me to make a wise decision as your son or your daughter, you know, then you have a good relationship that where you're being mentored and guided, you know.
Then, like, what if you, because like here in Africa, you can have a parent and you're a child, but you're always scared of your parents. The moment your father speaks, your mother speaks, you want to hide or like.
Actually, some parents here don't want to respond after them. Like, she's trying to correct you, and you're also trying to defend yourself.
Like that's
the moment
backing
you try,
or abusing.
that's backing at her, that's abusing her. So that's totally bad. You get it? You don't have to respond after an elder person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think those are, you know, you go with what you got. So you can't force your parent, just like you can't force your kid to be something or somebody that they're not, or at least that they're not yet. But I do know some testimonies of young people, especially those who've been born again and started understanding a new way of communicating, a new culture, a new, more Christ-like culture. It doesn't need to be American culture, it doesn't need to be Ugandan culture, but Christ-like culture for how to communicate with each other, where you can, you know, pray. Again, it's God knows my parent. God knows why they are the way they are. He knows why they're difficult to talk to. Maybe that's the way they were raised. Maybe that, and in our case, in our culture, that's most likely what the case was. Maybe they grew up with a tough parent who didn't listen to them. So maybe they don't know how to talk and have those conversations. Maybe they're scared of those conversations. Some of our adults don't like questions. I don't want to be questioned. You know, maybe because I don't have the answer. Maybe because I don't want to answer. Maybe because I'm tired because I've been trying to put food on the table and I just don't want to talk. You know, I don't want to be bothered because I've worked hard. I'm tired. I'm stressed out, and I don't want to be bothered. You know, that doesn't mean it's right, but that might be why. You know, so you can ask the Holy Spirit questions like that. You know, like, you know my parent better than I do. You understand them. I don't want to take their behavior like on myself, because that's what we do sometimes as kids. We take it on ourselves like there's something wrong with us. You know, like they hate us, or they don't love us, or they don't want us. You know,
it's my fault.
It's my fault. Yeah, I did something bad, and yet you may not have done anything. You know, and so, you know, Lord, if I've done something, correct me. If I'm behaving badly, help me see it. If you don't see it, but if there's something going on in my parent where I can maybe build a better relationship with them, help guide me, help show me how. And some of that comes from like having conversations like this, where we sit and we discuss and we share ideas about how to try and have conversations. And you have to know that when you're trying to shift the dynamics of a relationship, there'll be an uncomfortable season. You know, you may get a positive response, you may not. It's like saying I love you. Most of our families here, they don't say I love you to each other. I heard it all my life, every day growing up. You know, my dad can't hang up the phone without saying it. He'll even call you back if he forgets. You know, my mom will forget, but my dad won't.
I don't know how many times I've told Sophia I love you.
even greeting each other in the morning is rare.
Yeah.
You only greet like the mother in the house, but greeting each other sounds funny.
Actually, when Sophie tells me that, Frank, I love you, it's something that I find weird in my ears.
You know, and that's the thing. So things like that can come across like, oh, that's strange. That's, you know, I love you, Mom. And yet they've never heard you say that. Like, what's wrong? What did you do? What did you do? You know?
That's the response. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want?
What did you do? What do you want?
Yeah.
It's always the response.
Actually,
they
for
have.
me, I love my mom, but I hate telling it to her that I love you.
And that's okay. I mean, if you're more shy about it, that's okay. But, you know, I always think you should at least say it once in a while. There's power in both the words and the actions. If you don't have the actions but you say the words, it means nothing. If you know, don't say the words but you have the action, you know, they might, like my mom would say, I always knew my dad loved me, but he never really said it, but I knew he loved me. And I think that's our culture here. You know your parents love you, and in most cases, not all cases, but, you know, I might know they love me and they care about me, but I may not have ever heard it.
Until they do. Sometimes they do something surprisingly, and you're like, wow. That's how you get to know that, oh, this person loves me, or this person cares. But telling you directly, like, you're even reminding me of home, like, waking up and telling someone, good morning, how was your night? I think that would be one of the weirdest questions they'll ever like someone to ask you, good morning, and how was your night?
Actually, you
It's
start
rare.
questioning yourself. I think Sophie wants something.
She wants something, or she did something wrong.
It's so rare. Sophie coming to me in the morning and she's like, good morning. So, and that's the same with most of the other people out there. So you start questioning yourself.
When I was growing up, I wasn't a morning person. So, like in my teen years, my family would greet each other, good morning, how are you? But then I'd hear them say, like, is the bear awake yet? Because I was like, don't talk to me till like midday. You know, I can't even like look at you with a smile. When I was a teenager, you know, I was very not a fun morning person at all.
But you know, like for some reason in the States, like people like saying like I love you and stuff isn't like that weird.
It's
like
kinda normal.
amongst like family and
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Even
even like
good
friends.
friends.
Even friends.
Yeah.
That was so weird to me.
Yeah.
Like when I went back there, like even so like some of my close friends at first they'd be like, oh, like Ari, like good night, or love you, man, like
Yeah.
whatever. Yo, what are you talking about? Like
That's
just
weird.
chill. Yeah.
Because you've been in Uganda for some good time.
Like with family, it's not weird, but then like just my friends, it caught me off guard at first.
Yeah, because even my nephews, when I'm talking to them and I say bye, I'm like, bye, I love you. I love you too.
Wow.
But like I love
It's
my
just
friends. I love my
very-
friends. But then you like saying it was
Yeah.
The
Something that
African
you
culture
never-
But
was
actually,
building.
it's easier for me to tell it to a friend than telling it to a sister or brother or parent.
Even my husband, when we first married, I remember telling him, you know, I'm used to hearing those words a lot, you know? So it will be very hard for me if you can't, like, learn how to say that at least sometimes. Like, for me, I can accommodate that we have different cultures, we grew up differently, so, you know, you think differently and I think differently. So I can figure that out, navigate that, but at least give me some, you know? And he's actually very good at it.
I was like,
You know,
those are words that I think sometimes it's culture. Like even the first time my friend asked me, Sophie, how was your day? I was like, what? It was sounding weird in my ear. Someone asked me how was your day, because I'm used. My day will work. I take on the next day and life
and
moves
nobody
on,
interferes with it.
Like,
In
as-
fact, that's a funny difference in how like we grew up too. Because for me, I would get home from school. How was your day? What did you do? And if I don't offer information, my dad would think that I was lying, that I was
You
hiding.
didn't go to
What
school.
are you hiding? What have you been
that's how you
doing?
feel about me.
I do. You have to give me something.
Like,
you know,
wait, to prove that you went to school and you had school.
Yeah.
or just I mean, as if you've known me, you know I'm a conversationalist. I want to have conversations, and I don't want to just talk about, like, you know, the smoke is coming from the fire, or the wood was chopped last night. You know, I don't want to have kind of meaningless conversations. I want to talk about stuff, about people, and my dad was like that, and so it would bother him.
Coming, you know.
And the wood was just
Send it that way. But
Okay. So
that thing of communicating, though, was like even taught to me that it's a big deal to communicate. If I changed plans, I had to call home and find some place to call home and say, we've changed plans, we're going to this place instead.
wow.
You know, just communicate.
So
You know.
what I pick from me is like, when I have kids, that's something I need to build in my kids. Like, as they grow up,
Yeah.
to build that in them, that communication is everything. You don't need to hide anything, whether good or bad. Because like sometimes with my friends or with other people, you'll talk about the good, but then you don't want to talk about the bad, and you end up being. Thank you so much for watching. Let me hope you had a great time. Let me hope you had a great lesson time to learn about opening up. If you're a teenager, if you're a youth, how to open up to your parents, how to build the relationship. Just as our mom told us, you can ask the Holy Spirit to guide you. I know sometimes it's not easy to do on our own, but you can ask the Holy Spirit to guide you out, on how to do it, on how to work out things with your parents. And please share the link. Invite someone, with your friends. You can even be at school and you watch this with them, watch this with your life group, watch this with everyone. Let this knowledge spread, let this help spread. We love you. See you next Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Father Time by the Fire.